If you've got a lace leaf in your yard, today's your day. We're gonna learn with Chris Juel how to prune a lace leaf.
Konnichiwa, y'all, and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show. Guys, we're on location today. We're gonna be talking to you about how to prune a lace leaf Japanese maple.
Hey guys, I'm Tim. That's my brother Matt. We're MrMaple.com. We ship directly to your door and we do over 1,000 varieties of Japanese maples. We appreciate it if you shop us on Mr. Maple.
All right, guys, we're gonna get into some of the basics and some of the more advanced techniques that our friend Chris Juel does. He's a true artist when it comes to pruning Japanese maples. Today we're gonna be talking specifically about lace leaves. Look at this big giant we got here behind us. We're gonna get into some of the details about how this beauty is created. So guys, I brought up Chris here in a video once and you guys requested it, you kept asking for it. I said, my friend Chris Juel is like one of the best artists I know when it comes to pruning Japanese maples. So we had to get this finally worked out. Chris, what got you into Japanese maples and pruning them?
Well, you know, it's coming into college, you know, working in the restaurant industry, you know, you need kind of an outlet. Once my wife was pregnant with my first kid, I had to get out of like, you know, party scene.
Right.
So I was like, hey, let me bonsai something. And, you know, I did my research online, you know, saw Japanese maples. And lo and behold, there was a nursery that was right up the road. Thomas and Nancy Ash owned one. And I went out there and they were pruning at the time. And you know, she asked, hey, would you like to, you know, try? I was sitting there looking for a tree to buy. So I started, you know, I picked up the pruners and went from there.
You learned from some great talent. They are awesome. I've always admired their work. What would you call your basic style you do here on the lace leaf specifically? Is there a specific way you're pruning this?
Well, with the lace leaves, you know, I like to see the trunk line, right? So I don't want a big ball. I like to have the branches out and have pads. So that's kind of the style that, you know, they kind of taught me.
Yeah.
And that's style, you know, everybody takes on their own style. And, you know, it's just kind of like your vision of what you want it to be, really.
How long have you been working on this big beauty here behind us?
Probably 8 years.
Yeah.
When I first came out here, you know, it was kind of a ball. And I was taking 4 to 5 years worth of growth off at a time. So the first year when I came out and pruned, you know, you never want to take more than 30% of the tree. I took some major cuts. And then over the years, it's just refining it and getting the twigginess down.
Wonderful, man. We were talking off camera a little bit. You were mentioning about some trees never get pruned, but you like to kind of develop a kind of style with them a little bit.
Right. So trees that don't get pruned a lot. You know, this obviously has been years in the making. But trees that don't get pruned a lot, it's kind of fun. It's like a blank canvas when I look at it, and then you just kind of uncover. You know what the tree can do, and it takes years. And you know, there's some hard major cuts you have to take. But over the years, you know, I watched trees develop. So
I've admired your work from afar. I'm excited to be here today, guys. One of my favorite, I mean, I follow you on Facebook, so I love seeing what you're doing, trimming, working on stuff, and the outcomes are amazing. We'll have to come back and maybe get a little clip of this thing and leaf at some point. Absolutely a work of art, especially on an older tree like this. You got to have somebody you kind of trust a little bit. We're going to kind of give you some tips and some things that maybe you can follow through with as well. Might not be quite the artist this guy is, but maybe it can improve a little bit on what you're doing.
At the end of the day, it takes time.
Yeah.
Not something you can snap a finger on. People have to understand these things grow 6 to 18 inches, maybe a year. So, you know, if you constantly prune it back, to be able to develop it, takes time.
Now, do you focus primarily on lace leaves or do you uprights as well?
Uprights, I don't really touch much because, I mean, you really just want to take the dead out and any crossing branches. With lace leaves, you can develop pads. And I mean, you can with, you know, uprights, but you'd have to have a major ladder to do.
Right. Well, I love it. You kind of open it up so you got that light coming in, hitting the trunk. It's really maximizing the potential that the tree already has and just getting it to the optimal point. So I love it.
So, Chris, I've been seeing you work with all these tools. What are your tools to work with?
You know, just your basic, you know, shears. I like these because I can hold them in my hand and I can, you know, go for the fine twiggy stuff. And then my concave cutters. I mean, my concaves are anything bigger than a pencil, honestly. Even though, you know, I attack these things on all kinds of stuff, so.
Well, when you've got people out here who might be starting for a lace leaf for the very first time pruning, because I'm sure many people are, what would be your first steps in the very first year you're going to prune a lace leaf?
It depends on the size of the tree. Obviously, you know, like I said, you don't want to take more than 30% of the tree. But just starting to take everything back to one pair. honestly, on a Laceleaf, that's kind of how you initiate it. There's years that I take them back to 2 pair or 3 pair. Just depends on what you want the tree to do, because the tree wants to grow, like I said, 6 to 18 inches, depending on what variety type it is.
So sometimes you're just taking out the bottom to sort of make that sort of A-frame thing you were talking about before.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, you start at the bottom. Obviously, the apex is the last thing I usually go after, because if you start at the apex first, the tree might not be proportional. So on trees that I usually go to that I don't necessarily prune every year, say one that's 10 years old, looks like a ball, and I've never touched it. The first year I'll go in and take, conflicting branches out. The next year I'll come in and I'll start at the bottom. And what you want to do, you get your bottom down, and then you start getting that A-frame type of tree.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're leaving the top sort of towards the last thing that you're working towards, essentially.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. And then after you do that, what are you looking for when you're going in and pruning?
I'm trying to create pads. I want to be able to see the trunk, see the branches. You want to have that kind of like what's under there, what's behind there kind of look. And like I said, it's just the style that I like to create. It follows bonsai technique a lot. But these trees are gorgeous.
So essentially what you're doing is you're going in and finding the main branches, following them out, and then letting each of those branches or groups of those branches become a pad.
Right. And you'll see it on the tree. Obviously one of the main branches coming from, the trunk that creates into 2 branches. Those 2 branches can create 2 different pads. So it doesn't have to just be one pad. You can, use the height variety of it. The buds on Japanese maples, they can either go out like this or they can go out like this. So as you're pruning, you have to think a year, 2 years ahead. Okay, well, I need it to go up, or I need it to go down, or I need it to go, create like a pad. And then that's how you, almost stair step a tree, really.
Yeah, this is really cool, because when we were in Japan, they talked about letting light hit all the branches. Mm-hmm. And by creating the space, you're letting the light hit more branches, so it has more of that natural kind of look, but also that bonsai aesthetic too, so that's really cool.
Right.
So Chris, I've done some basic pruning. I'm no super artist at this. Explain to me how to get started. Like, I've never even got into this before. Like, where should I start from?
So, just like Thomas and Nancy kind of always taught me, take everything back to a pair. If at least all you do is take everything back to a pair, then you have to, control the tree and what it does every year. So if this is your branch, mm-hmm. you got, a branch going here, a branch going there. If you cut back to one pair, these are buds here and here. Mm-hmm. This is 1 pair, this is 2 pair. And then you also have, how the buds, like which direction the buds want to go. You have buds that go this way and that way, and then buds that also go, to the right, to the left, at you and away from you, to the right, to the left. And so you can control it.
Yeah. Like so you're actually taking some of the buds out sometimes too to kind of control the direction?
You can. So for instance, if I wanted to say I wanted to leave this branch, right? Let's do it here. I wanted to leave this branch, but I don't want this bud to come up, which, they're all the buds are viable. Not all the times, even if they're nice, plump, and swole, sometimes they won't come out. I'm sure you've seen that before. But for instance, if I don't want this top bud, I'll just take my finger and just pop it off.
Yeah.
And so that way only the bottom one comes out, or vice versa.
Now, are you worried about the space in here in your nodes? Do you have a distance you try to keep it from that set of buds for the dieback?
Not really on like these. Like sometimes these I like to get them, as close as possible. But when I'm cutting thousands of times, it's like, okay, do I want to sit there and wait to get right up against? Now, if it's a tree at my house, yeah, I'm taking my time. For customers, I'm trying to, they're paying me by the hour. They're paying me to travel here. So I'm trying to go as fast as possible. And they're called pin bones. And you can see from the year before how far those pin bones are. And those are easy. You can just pop them out. So if you really want to detail, see, look how big these pin bones are.
Yeah.
So if you really want to detail your own tree, you can go in the next year when you're pruning, and you can go in and you can crack out those, what we call pin bones.
How much of the tree are you taking back to that 2 set of buds?
Basically every branch except for, so if you see right here, okay. So I cut here last year. Okay, so this is 1 year of growth and this is 2 years of growth. You see how this has a fork back here? So sometimes I'll take it all the way back there. And what this does, it allows 2 different branches. So you don't have 2 branches, 2 branches. That's how you create more of that pad effect. And then you would come back 1 pair, 1 pair. But I don't like that one, so, because that one was going up. So then and that's how you create your pads and your branches.
When you're taking out those upper ones too, it's kind of just flattening those pads out.
Correct. Sometimes, you know, it's like, okay, do I need more height here? How big do I want my pad, right? So I could leave this here, you know, and I could cut 1 pair, 1 pair, and then come back here, cut 1 pair, 1 pair, 1 pair, 1 pair. But then I look at it after I go all the way pairs and I'm like, all right, this sticks up too much. Then I could just literally come in and bring it down. So it just, like I said, it depends on what you want to do and how you want the tree to look. You know, everybody has their own vision, and I would just say, don't be afraid. You know, don't be afraid to do it. Order more cut leaf Japanese maples. I would have a variety of them. Green, red, Tamukiyama is a real powerful one. Crimson Queen's not as powerful, but very, very delicate. Waterfall, pretty powerful tree as well. So I would just say, just play around. And that's kind of how I did. I've got, like I said, 42 Japanese maples planted in my yard. I've lost some, plant another one. That's just what you do. Not everyone's going to survive. You want to, you know, you learn as you go. I would just say document what you do. Kind of keep like a notebook. I mean, I've got pictures of all the trees that I've pruned over the years, and it's amazing to see the transformation. All the way down here from back there, I saw it. See how it comes up? See, sometimes you only want to take, like I wouldn't want to take this whole thing necessarily, so I would start here.
So you're taking out a lot of conflicting branches
Conflicting stuff that goes up. Like, see, this one comes up like this.
So you like to keep everything kind of headed downward on that lace leaf?
Yeah, usually. I mean, every once in a while, once trees get older, and this one, like I said, it's taken some time. I mean, there were some big branches, but you know, I worked on a tree on Friday, and it had never been touched. And I sent you a picture, and it was amazing. It took me 8 hours. And there's a lot of branches. So the branches, they want to come down and then they want to come up, right? They're trying to get the light and the top's trying to grab the light. So, you know, these branches come up, and over time what happens is the lower branches, you have to get them up, right? So you want stacks. With this, I can create pads everywhere because there's so many branches.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
This tree, man, that's the one I wanted to show you guys.
Oh, this is a beauty. I get one. We want to get this one on camera.
And so by stacks and these pads, what you're talking about are essentially the tiers.
Correct.
I've heard some people call this the floating cloud style method, where you sort of create these different little clouds around. Is that essentially what you're doing?
Similar. You see that a lot on like conifers and stuff, you know. With like pines, and you want you create the pads to go up. With this, I want to layer it. So with lace leaves, because they weep, so they obviously want to come down. So it's hard to see now. Like once I finish like a section, you guys can really see. Like if you take a before shot of here, and after I finish, you'll literally see the steps.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what happens is, I mean, so you can see my cuts year over year, right? And then what happens is when the branches come out, they lace leaf down. So it creates that pad. And every once in a while, like trees at my house, you'll get, like especially Tamukiyamas, they're powerful trees. Tamukiyama, you know, you'll have a branch and then all of a sudden one will just want to go straight up, right? Because it wants to go back into the middle and it wants to be in the lead. But, you know, I'll go in, at least in my yard, and I'll go pick them out, so. But I mean, all these cuts, you really can't prune. You have to prune lace leaves in the winter when there's no leaves. If not, you don't know what you're pruning.
Yeah. I think they heal really well right now too. I mean, right now is one of the more forgiving times to be pruning. I always encourage right now for people instead of early winter, just because your ability to heal. This is when the grafts take the easiest. This is when the wounds heal so much faster in like 5 to 6 days versus like 20 days.
Yeah. Well, any big cuts, anything like bigger than this, you want to do I try not to do super big cuts in the winter. You know, if I'm able to at customer's house or go to their house, you know, I'll do those cuts like June, like, you know, after the first flush of leaves come out. Then you pop it because it's got so much sap coming through the cambiums.
Right.
It rolls over easier.
Nice. How much time do you spend in here versus in the inside of the tree? I guess you established that some of the first few times.
Yeah, well, the inside is, you kind of let it go. Like all this, what I call junk, see it all popping out? I don't want any more branching. Or maybe I do, depending, did I lose a branch? Do I need to let one come? But what I would do in there is I would go in and you want to pick one. You don't want a bunch of coming out. See how they're all coming out of the same spot? I'll go in there with my concaves and just take it out like this. Now, for instance, like a 1 year, or I guess a 1 gallon, I probably wouldn't prune as much. Let it grow a year or two. And you know, sometimes I use wire to twist and turn. You know, not too much wire, you just have to watch. Usually I put the wire on in March for like a tree at my house, for instance. I put the wire on in March and I'll have to take it off by like April or May because the branches swell that fast.
Wow. Yeah, when they're growing so fast, the wires.
Yeah. Well, use I don't necessarily use aluminum or copper. I use what is it? The plastic wrapped wire that you can get at like Lowe's and Home Depot. I found that to be more forgiving, should I say?
What do you think are some of the main mistakes people make when they're pruning? When you have to see stuff that you're trying to correctively fix?
Mistakes pruning, cutting off too much. That's the main thing. If you're that's what I'm saying. Until you understand how the tree grows, you know, it's like you don't know what to do. Or, for instance, if somebody came in and just cut it right here, I mean, you don't want to do that. You want to cut it all the way back to either here or here. You just kind of have to see where it meets at. But yeah, you never want to cut like in the middle of something. But I mean, you know, like I said, we're cutting too much off on a young tree, and then it just never has any juice. You know, you've got to establish. The main thing is, especially on like younger trees, you want to make sure to get the root system established. Right. And the only way to do that is for what? You have to have energy. So you have to have foliage. So you don't want to prune too much. The main thing to do on like younger trees to start training them is guide them with, like I said, you know, either a stake and rope or something, but you just have to keep an eye on it. And Japanese maples grow fast, and especially if you're wrapping wire around something, it'll cut in so fast.
Right. I always tell people that. People are so, you know, gung-ho to prune a 1 gallon. I'm like,
yeah.
Get it in the ground, let it get established.
Correct, yep.
You know, we don't even prune on things in the nursery until they're in 7s or 10s.
Yep.
Kind of let them fill out, kind of let the tree dictate a little what it wants to do first, too.
Yep. I mean, especially like with weepers, too, you just want to grab a leader branch every year and make it go up. And make it go up the next year and make it go up. And that's how you get height. Because, I mean, I'm sure you've seen some like super, super low growers where, you know, there'd be like a 10-year-old tree and it's 4 foot off the ground, you know, and just spreads out.
Guys, I hope you've learned something today about pruning Laceleaf Japanese maples. We got a beautiful specimen here. Special thanks to Juel. I'm going to put how you can contact him in the description of the video, so you can reach out to him if you'd like to reach out to Chris for further information. But man, I really appreciate you hopping on here and sharing some of your expertise with us.
Yeah, definitely. I know this has been years in the making. We've been trying to get up. You know, it's finally glad it finally happened. You know?
Well, our door's always open. You'll have to get up to one of our open houses. I know a lot of people would probably like to meet you in person too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I'm hoping maybe you can get some more business of doing this artwork that you do on trees. So definitely contact Chris if you're interested. Thank you so much for showing us sort of the intricacies and the details of what you do. And I hope you all learned a little bit today, a little bit about how you could prune the lace leaf in your yard.
Take care.
God bless.
Have a great day.